So, hi everybody. It's part two of the uh, openType-features UI vision session. And so let's pick up where we were yesterday. I will read a bit of a summary of my notes to so that we know where we were or what I'm thinking on. So what do I got here as notes? One of the goals is to reach a consistency of handling of openType-features across applications. For the identity, this project is really about providing a set of solutions for applications to provide UI to these features. One point that's really quite important, it says he's centered on Half-Bus. I guess it's intimately entangled with Half-Bus, you can call it that. It is about or limited to openType-features that are user controllable, and that can grow or shrink the set a little bit, what is desirable to be user controllable. So here's a note, yes, have to be useful to software projects, which are in a way our primary customers or primary users of this set of solutions. Whereas the end users, people working on type, are the secondary users. But last but not least, let's put it that way, all the value that we can deliver goes via those end users, actually. Then a couple of points have been raised. What goes in the direction of what can we do as value? It's a bit on a low level, like overview of what feature is applied where. So really, that word overview is really already a value kind of a thing. And then what features are available in font X, in a particular font. This also plays on just when you select a font or when you have selected a font and actually want to apply them, apply what is there at that point. Then users. First of all, what I thought to begin with, professional in brackets typographical users. But then Dave came with a strong plea for general rich text users. I think that really sums it up, which is of course an enormous amount more of users that we got there. As I was just chatting to Dave before Nathan came on, then you really moved it from a specialist niche to just about for everybody. Which means it's got super strong infrastructure traits there, the whole project. And as I said, it's not something I cannot handle, but it really does move it in that, well, it positions it in that direction. Now Dave said then, like, wasn't 100% sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you think that this, that kind of user profile or persona is too broad, then we should, focus on. I think, the discussion was that there's really two personas. There's someone using LibreOffice and there's someone using GIMP.
Yeah. Let's put it this way. As soon, of course, I'm much more like when it is really labeled as it is, like general rich text users, which can be in many cases where that happens, and it's nothing that speaks against that would actually speak against designing it for one project, which is LibreOffice. Is like, well, then that's a nice job to do, but it's, again, it's a huge amount of users, but it's, again, a drop in the ocean compared to the rest. Now, what I would like to go to, actually, to move us along, is let's explore a little bit that general rich text users demographic, and really ask ourselves, and I think that's what I was looking for at the end of the session last time, when it was a bit like, I will be completely up for it if we can sort of formulate what, in terms of value, we're going to bring to them. So really, even this can be like a mission we have to actually bring these features. Like, where is it actually going to be worthwhile?
Do you mean what sorts of documents, what sorts of tasks people are going to work on? We're going to find it useful, or?
No, we can play a couple of scenarios right now just to get a feel for it. But of course, since now, if it's so general, like I said before, we've moved from 10,000 use cases to 1 million. It doesn't make sense to go enumerating what this all can be. It does help because I see this is a really big picture global question. We're a little bit stuck, so if it just helps us to start going, like the first thing that pops in your mind where you really think, well, that's useful, then we can just do a couple of examples and see what we can abstract out of it. Hell, why not?
Okay, let me throw this out there and then you tell me if I'm hearing you correctly or not. One thing that I think of would be useful to a really general audience would be someone who's, when someone is preparing a document, and that could be a presentation or something they're sending out, and the default font settings use, say, numerals that are not tabularly aligned, and the 0 is not distinct from the capital O, and if the font has features that you could turn on to activate those changes, that's going to help them make the document look like they want and have that be better understood. And the way it currently is, you have to know how those fonts are implemented to know that it's even possible to turn on that kind of feature.
Well, that's not bad at all, because what they're hearing there is controlling the font features to get the message across better, to communicate better, which fits with text as a means of communication. It's not bad at all, so good start.
I think that would be different than when we consider things like stylistic and swash features, which you tend to imagine that they're being useful for aesthetic purposes. Somewhere in between, you have things like the fact that small caps are not accessible in most fonts, except if they're implemented in a completely separate font that you would choose in the font menu. But those things, there's an aesthetic interest there rather than like strictly communicating information. So I don't know if that's different enough to warrant a separate consideration.
Yeah, but just, I better take notes because it's like cool through text and simply and aesthetics are fair enough in lots of situations. In a sense, unlocking the core capabilities of these aesthetic and also typographical, which is, I would almost say, a halfway house between aesthetics and information. And all of this is fair enough.
Yeah, I'd agree with those three groups.
Yeah, but now we really already moved on from we do openType-features because it's cool to this is what we're going to bring. And one factor, and I noticed that in this talk I have to put myself a bit more in than usually when I talk to other clients, but that also comes again with this infrastructure trait of this project. What I'm thinking of is, and you can just say if you agree or not, is really about this word unlocking, and it's something that Nathan already said, like certainly for general audience, but also still in reality for pros, all this open-type stuff is, obscured, locked in the dungeon of the fonts themselves, where they sit and wait for their release, if I put it dramatically.
I would agree with that.
And this, so as sort of a secondary effect, and we talked already about this last week, I do fully expect that when we unlock these features by releasing them to the world, at least to our demographic, which we come in at the reaches of our world, I expect that this will then certainly give the font makers world sort of a buzz, which I would say is a secondary effect that we can achieve there. You feel the same about that? Especially Dave?
I agree.
So write it down, secondary. Boon to font makers. Now, and what was also super interesting, and it was really at the end of our conversation last week, was this also explosion of scope from Linux desktop applications to basically mobile phones and browsers, which Dave also brought into the conversation.
All right. I was thinking about that this week. It strikes me, and I could be totally wrong on this, but it strikes me that most of the in-browser editing tools that people have, like the rich text editor in WordPress or something like that, they tend to mimic what's already being done in desktop tools. So I don't know that that's drastically different from a UX perspective, but I think that the tools that people use when working on a mobile phone are really different. So I don't know if that's worth sort of taking the web case for granted and then treating the mobile one separately or not. But.
Yeah, I can completely tell you with utter confidence, because I've been in mobile since 1997, that these mobile interfaces, and we simply talk about touch interfaces from 2007, have completely different requirements than desktop, or completely different requirements and different designs, because it's a completely different medium for interaction, especially the input side, but also, like you say, small screens, the output side, but then combined with the input side that is fat fingers, makes for really different interfaces. So it does mean that these things have to be handled in a different way for mobiles and tablets. Now this again can be handled, it doesn't have to gum up the project by just starting with desktop. Like Dave said, let's do general first and then see what has to be done at the pro side, if that is really different. This means that you can simply get two results without, the project becoming megalomaniac and nothing happens anywhere because everything is just too much. It can be cut down to a core project, first priorities, and then move on to second and third priorities. This is, what it does has for me on the other side is this broadening of scope, which I said last week. Like, I know from doing open printing for Linux desktop that a lot of people on the industry side are like, oh yeah, 2% market share. Maybe today it's a 5% market share. And really not paying attention. Whereas if you simply say, well, the scope of this via Harvbus is at the end, all of Linux desktop, web browsers that use this for rendering, and second week that escaped me, the Google mobile system.
Android?
Yeah, that one. The obvious one. The big one. The mega one. That, of course, does change.
Have we lost Peter?
I think so.
He'll be back. So how's it going?
Yeah. Things are good. I'm busy. I've got lots going on today, so I'm a bit distracted. I think I think that we need to pick down a couple of apps and say, like, this is what we're leading with, and then this is a sort of demo implementation proposal, whatever, and other apps can take this as a model.
Yeah. Got to remind me when we get Peter back. I wanted to bring up the color fonts thing. I guess I was sort of wondering if that's not too far afield compared to the sort of other features we're accessing. Like normally,
they've been standardized, so it's part of openType.
Yeah, but that's an implementation detail. From the user's perspective, it would be, I think, more similar to selecting the color of a font the way it's used in a document now from the color menu or something like that. So it would be implemented, I think, it'd be implemented wherever that widget is for choosing the foreground and background color of a font. So, I don't know. Yep.
I'm back.
He's back.
All right.
I don't know what happened there. Yes, that scared me also. But good. Strange. What's going on? This is strange that I have an intermittent connection here. What do I want to do? I'm really checking if what I still need to know. So I can really also put at the top of my list of notes that that. My microphone is muted. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I do not know what is going on. I'm just trying to do my work.
Computers, what can you do?
Insensitive creatures, yeah. So I was saying this is undoubtedly an infrastructure project which comes with this two-tier structure projects and users. Maybe we should talk a little bit about what we have to bring to the projects themselves. Like I said, we bring solutions as much as possible. They will need, or they will need to be enticed by libraries that do the nitty-gritty for them, the hard work.
Maybe, yeah.
Well, certainly at the most basic level, Harvbus needs to provide the data. Then we spoke about this last week. Then needs to be then we can build out from there. Like I said, ultimately, can even the toolkits provide some of the standard patterns that I design as standard components that they standard customizable components that they deliver to the, or that they offered on their actual platforms, which would make it really easy to integrate for applications. Or, and there was also cases of things like GNOME and KDE that are in their desktop environment, in their libraries, they build the actual standard widget so that it can be rolled out even without minimal or no code changes everywhere where rich text is actually being used. If it's all accessible via a little button in the corner, then hell, why not? Just to give an example.
Yeah. If you're asking for feedback on where we draw that line, we might have to talk to people from a couple of projects or from the toolkit projects to know if they care at that level. If they, I mean, I know I'm more familiar with GNOME and GTK, and the UI people there tend to produce UI pattern, essentially drawings that individual app maintainers implement, so they don't provide skeleton code. Oh. And I suspect they wouldn't expect skeleton code for something else. I don't know if that's true in the Qt KDE world.
Funny, I thought there would things like color pickers, font dialogues, etc. That would be kind of.
I think there may be some of that that's implemented as a standard widget material, but it sort of, I know certainly the high-end apps like GIMP and Inkscape make their own widgets, of course, and my impression is that even when you get into LibreOffice and other Office apps, they also make their widgets, so it would be a relatively small set of single-purpose applications that would use something prefabricated, I think.
But it's actually funny how you phrase it, because you say like, and I can see that, I mean, you know my talk from LGM, like, yes, of course, the pro typographical apps make their own custom parts. It's like the race car. It doesn't use factory parts, it uses custom parts to be really fast. Of course, LibreOffice, which is so document text-centric, well, of course, it is understandable that they went their own way. But if you then say, what's then left is just a small demographic, it's actually the other way around. There's like 1 or 2 dozen of these big exceptional applications. And there's hundreds of other applications that use rich text which would not make an effort to build something themselves, but only pick up
But how many users do those applications have?
Well, aggregated, because there's such a lot of them and they serve...
Yes, aggregated.
Well, what about how many?
It's like the web, and this is... Again,
but it isn't though, is it? Because there's very few GNU plus Linux users. and so those toolkits are not used very much, on Windows and Mac OS, and so I don't think so. I think that the aggregate number of users of applications which are using generic widgets from free software toolkits is very low.
Well, what if I was going to say, what if we think about not in terms of users as human beings for counting, but in terms of like hours spent in an application? Because there may be the same number of users for GIMP and for gedit, the simple GNOME text editor, but people might spend a lot more time in GIMP when they use it trying to style text. And I don't have any numbers on this, but
actually we might consider why we are actually arguing about this, because once we've said we just do this for rich text, then, and we know we're gonna go from a set of patterns, which is first of all designs on paper, best practice, guidelines, this is how you do it. And from then, after all that work is done, then there is, there's support from Hardbus, so it's become real, and maybe there are some reference implementations in some applications. At that point, really, to go canvassing with like multiplicators, people who can put this into toolkits, and of course it's very logical, sort of an extension to the standard font dialog, this kind of stuff, because that's a natural home where it could find its, its permanent home. It's in a way not an issue right now. As soon as you're taking the decision that you're just going to design this for the demographic of basically everybody, and you're going to unlock these features for them and see how it rolls, and see and offer the chance for this system to get mature in providing features because it's worth it, and using these features because they become accessible, affordable in posh UI speak. They can be discovered and can be used. The task right now is just to get started with it, I would say.
Yeah, I was thinking just a second ago when you brought up font chooser dialogues that it may be that the way new features flow in some of these projects is they make one application that uses it. So if one GNOME developer takes something that we create and puts it into their editor, it propagates from there and then maybe makes it upstream as a standard GTK widget and maybe just simply gets adopted. So maybe we don't need to worry at the outset about the lines that they draw within those separate application projects as to whether it's a standard or custom widget. 'Cause there can be reuse before something moves upstream into GTK's standard object collection, I guess.
And now that you tell me this again, and with this, start of a, say, multiplication process, was really when my question was like, what do these projects need? Is like, these projects need some kind of clarity that this is a good solution, it's a doable solution, so they need, it needs to be, I would say, affordable to build in technical terms. They need all the support with all the hairy typographical stuff because they don't know. It's not their domain. And it must be feasible. That's the word I was looking for. It must be feasible at all levels, and it must be done. It must be very clear cut what has to be done. So, and then you get a chance for this adaptation that somebody starts an implementation of it. So projects need what it. Hello. Feasible solutions, which has helped me to get again a bit closer to for what we can write in the vision. So okay, I get a feeling that within what within what is solid and graspable or can be grasped in an infrastructure project, which is very little because it's about everything for a lot, everything, everybody, everywhere, the kind of stuff that I've written about before, and it will from now on rattle through this project all the time like that. Within that limits, I have the feeling that we got quite a we got there to what there is actually to say about this. Is there any other aspect that you guys think should still play into this?
Well, I did, when you were off camera for a minute there, I did bring up with Dave whether or not we think that the color font issue is too distinct to be tackled simultaneously with the other OpenType font features. Dave thinks it ought to be. I was not so sure. I don't know if that's worth worrying about now either, because as far as what we would deliver to a developer would probably be along a similar thing. It'd be patterns and something to show that it's feasible to implement. But I don't know if that's...
I would not... It's good to know, and this will come up further when, say, throughout this, I go read a lot of documentation and with this new viewpoint that will come out of the vision, or with the viewpoint of our vision. I will, with those glasses, I will be reading, all the technical stuff that's possible, and the whole color font thing will be about how solid is the standard, how much is it, does it fit or not, or is it an extra that must or can be treated later, or is it actually simply like, well, it must be on board, just do it right now, make the design for it, done. So, but this is kind of, one or two steps lower in the scope that we are looking at right now, like the plan of everything. And color fonts will not be mentioned in the vision, that's for sure. But that's not what this is about.
Okay.
So it was actually quite quick enough. Still have to ask Dave if he got anything to add. Meanwhile, what I will tell you, what will happen now, I will sit down and write a vision, and I will put it on the create list. That will be a point where we'll see what happens. Either it's going to be outcry left, right, and center, or deafening silence, which is okay because a big silent yes is fine with me. Then from then on, it's our pact, our vision for this project, what we're going to be doing, and no, this later cannot be reneged. So it's not like it's now or never in these minutes, like speak now or be silent forever. There's going to be a flexible process on the create list, which either is like a huge shrug or it's going to be a couple of weeks of discussion, whatever. If it needs a lot more discussion, there will be another video session like this with everybody in it who suddenly has something to say. Then we will see about that. So that's also for procedure, what will happen now. If Dave is now also really sure that there's no more aspect he wants to bring into this.
No, I didn't think so. I think I think that picking a couple of applications, maybe even just one, to make the proposal more tangible, it would be good.
Yeah, there will be, in my result, there will be tangible, directly implementable design for certain classes of applications, or more or less classes of screen space, what you're talking about, like big vertical layout, horizontal layout, a pop-up thing, that kind of stuff. But it will, and that's now written there. It must be, they must be able to see, it must be feasible, and they must be thinking, well, I could do that in 1 week, which means they do it in 4 weeks. But as long as they think, I can do that in 1 week, it becomes feasible, I think.
I agree. And yeah, I think a sort of competitor analysis, showing people where the other implementations are at, and why this is comparatively better, would be helpful, motivating.
But that's the further process. So then, gentlemen, thank you for the second session. I'm quite happy that we got here. And I'm happy to do the next step and then move forward in the process. So,
okay, great.
So thank you guys for a short session, and see you later again.
All right,
next time.
looking forward to your post, Peter. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, bye bye.